see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan McClurg and Nick Morgeson.
As we love to say, folks, hello again, my friends. Happy Thursday. And as we always say, whenever Nick Morgeson and Callan McClurg have to jump on to Press Row on our off day from our show, that usually means there is not good news to report in the world of sports business and sports media. Nick, the story broke yesterday. We talked about it last week, too, with Alan Shipnuck. But now, Nick, we continue to monitor the ongoing issues plaguing LIV Golf on this Thursday. Great to see you. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I love when we do these shows. It'd be nice if there's a little few far in between. But you know what? This is an interesting story because we started to discuss this, and now it's kind of taken an ugly turn for a lot of golfers on the LIV Golf League. I guess that's what they call it now. It's not really a tour. But we have a lot to get into now that news is broken. But before we do that, make sure you follow Press Row across all social media platforms at Press Row ETB, Twitter, Instagram. When TikTok decides not to have a hissy fit attitude with our social media, we'll get over there. If you like the network, follow ETB Network across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. We broke 1,100 subscribers, so please continue to do your part and help us grow the numbers as we continue on here. All right, so the big news, Saudi Arabia Public Interest Fund withdraws all funding. We've already were on this track already. We knew this was inevitable. Is that the right way of looking at it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. Where do we start?
Well, Nick, I guess we start, though, in a move that has sent shockwaves throughout the entire sporting world. The Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, or the PIF, has officially, as of today, announced their intentions to seize all financial backing for the LIV golf circuit, effective immediately after 4 years and billions of dollars spent to disrupt the sport of golf. The PIF is reportedly pivoting towards its Vision 2030 sports portfolio, towards domestic infrastructure and even FIFA World Cup preparations. LIV Golf, as a standalone entity, now faces a massive crisis without its primary benefactor at this rate. So I guess to kick off the show today, how much, though, of the decision may have been backed or based on a lack of return on investment versus the stalled negotiations with both the PGA Tour and even the US DOJ, in your opinion?
Oh, man. I mean, there's a lot of issues with this. I mean, it depends what you're getting into business for when you start one of these types of leagues or a professional league, or go ask the AAF how that worked out.
Yeah.
Or the UFL. Go ask how that worked out. Didn't they combine into one league because they couldn't?
Yes, with the XFL. Because
they couldn't stay alive. Staying alive. Couldn't stay alive. Oh, that's cool. We have our first poll up on here. With the loss of PIF funding, is LIV Golf officially dead? Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no.
That's how it works.
But how much of the decision was based on a lack of return on investment? The real answer is none. At least in the beginning, it was none. Because they were spending millions upon millions into the billions to invest in this thing, and they didn't care if they originally were losing money.
No, they didn't. I thought initially that it was a good shot in the arm for a sport like golf, Nick, that again, we know it's very much, you're to yourself. There's so much prestige and tradition, and that there's not a lot of emotion shown in these events, sadly, as we kind of know with golf. So like early on, it was a good disruptor, but I think though when people began to see the chinks in the armor, and especially Nick, though, I think of two words: blood money, because of the Saudi investment fund. And I think we even heard David Sampson's a podcast from yesterday on Press Row, where he basically said, now how much has the current Iranian war in a way affected the PIF's investment in certain things and with this golf tour. I also think though, Nick, that it was a good thing for like a week. But when you can't stay on a regular American TV station, you keep jumping networks. You don't, I mean, you're not even registering even 0.1 viewership on the radar, on the Richter scale. You're not making any headway. You can, spend out of your ass with all the millions and billions of dollars as they have been, but it just did not really catch on. Because I think, as I said though, Nick, when we talked to Alan Shipnuck last week, I really felt though that there was a massive disconnect though for the regular golf audience, like a Ben Cruz of this network, for example. You're so used to how the PGA Tour had long played. Stroke play, individual play, shut your mouth, stay quiet, don't have your camera go off or your phone go off. Where LIV, Nick, in a way, like I asked Alan, it felt more along the lines of this was more of a, you take the atmosphere of the WM Open in Phoenix at hole 16. You've got the party vibes. You got the, music playing. You've got a team event going on along with the individual, player prize pool to go with it though. But it really just, I don't think really caught on to golf fans out there because this isn't real golf in a way.
Yeah, it's more like you said, a party atmosphere. It kind of felt like Happy Gilmore a little bit out there.
I could agree 100%.
Where they were more just interested in a party than they were.
It was more about the spectacle around the course more than the guys playing. And again, these guys, they didn't get no slouches to go over and play and live either, from DeChambeau and Rahm and all those Koepka who went over there too. But I agree though, Nick, about the Happy Gilmore atmosphere. I actually rewatched the movie on Sunday after I got off work at a friend's house. I
love that movie. It's great.
Yeah, I was watching the end of the Ducks Oilers game on Sunday, and it happened to be on, I think, USA or whatever. And we got to the film during the scene where Gilmore makes the comeback after he gets run over by the Volkswagen, but also about Shooter McGavin saying, "People, this is a golf tournament, not a rock concert," and he's out there beating the crap out of that beach ball that went on the green. That's what I think we all could agree upon. LIV kept in a way going down that rabbit hole of the party atmosphere. But I think though too, when you change books on people in a hurry and go the route of a team event in golf, it makes it more confusing. I would rather it be President's Cup or Ryder Cup where you play the team format, but not every week not every week when you're on tour.
No. And you know what? They thought, and we had discussed this over the last couple of days, that they thought everybody was just going to come running because they were basically spending money like drunken sailors. Say, oh, we'll give so-and-so star player 200 million here, 250 here, 300 here. And every golfer said, oh, I don't have to just have my sponsors as way of surviving and winning, and that's the only way I win prize money? Okay. You mean I basically could be paid just to show up to events? First of all, what was the incentive of winning if you were just being paid to show up in golf, right?
Exactly.
There's no incentive left. At least that's how I see it. But it's just an odd, bizarro situation from a standpoint of the public interest fund, the Saudi public interest fund, finally said, "Uncle," after $5 billion in the red, in the hole. Okay? Why now? Why all of a sudden at $5 billion of losses are we now finally pulling the plug and say, oh, the public interest fund is going to be worth trillions of dollars, but $5 billion was my ceiling?
Why am I of the belief somehow, though, that there may have been some kind of a ceiling or like a borrowing limit, for example, on a credit card that you and I probably have racked up in our lifetime, that you hit that ceiling or you hit that limit about you can't go beyond $400 on to borrow on Cash App, for example. Again, that's just, speculation. But you wonder, though, Nick, though, too, if you also wonder if, like I said, though, did LIV or LIV lose that luster because of now that the PGA Tour had like this weird soccer transfer window open up for 30 days and you saw, Koepka walk out the door, maybe other things happen here. But I do wonder, though, if the government, though, maybe as David Sampson said, though, on Nothing Personal on Wednesday, is other events that are going on in that part of the world again with the geopolitical tension between DC and over in Tehran. The oil issues right now, could that have been a factor? Or now are they deviating those assets now, Nick, to other things involving the PIF? Or are they beginning now in a way to shutter that sports portfolio? Because I think I mentioned on Wednesday, now you wonder if you're a wrestling fan, as Christy Wilson is, and she'll probably talk more about this on Saturday, what happens with any event, though, that would be held in over in Saudi Arabia, like they had for, I think, the Royal Rumble or the Clash or the Clash event back there. What about soccer? What about golf? What about Zuffa boxing, TKO, for example? Are there other things that are going to be affected, Nick, and not just LIV is my other next big question.
Well, Alan Shipnuck said it during the interview with us 2 weeks ago that even though on the forefront it looks like they cared about golf, they weren't really caring about golf. They were caring about making relationships for food and other rationings that they were trying to get over. I think LIV Golf was more the shell that they were using to make other agreements and arrangements to get what they needed. At least that's how I saw it. But it's just odd. And we're going to go through all the different stories because now LIV Golf went from being, when the story came out originally, it's not true. It's made up. Scott O'Neill, the CEO of the LIV Golf League, had to come out and, even though he's an idiot, and put out a tweet that had to be deleted also, and said, we're fine. We're funded all the way through.
There's nothing to see here.
But then we find out during Press Row yesterday, or a couple days before Press Row talked about it on Press Row, that the event in Louisiana got canceled.
It did.
So obviously there are problems going on with LIV Golf, because why would the funding be pulled? Why would Louisiana get its $1.2 million back that it was using to fund LIV Golf if there's not a problem going on?
Precisely.
So for the question of lack of ROI, for 90% or 95% of this, they could give two shits about ROI because they were spending billions of dollars and paying all these golfers millions, which they're still going to be on the hook for. Even with the funding being pulled away, they're still going to have to pay Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson. And these are large contracts, $200 million plus worth.
It's not chump change either. But also, Nick, and as I kind of alluded to, though, there have been some reports I've seen, though, about spending fatigue from Riyadh earlier this year. But also, Nick, as we said, though, the lack of an American major TV deal for the U.S., was that maybe the final straw, though, for the governor of Yasir Al-Rahmani, and when it came, though, to LIV maybe having the funding pulled, in your opinion?
Right, but that's not 100% true. They had deals. They had CW. They had Fox Sports. It's not that they didn't have U.S. deals. The ratings were dog shit. And
I think that's where I think they finally said it's time that we stop this crap, basically.
So Fox and CW finally, you know what they probably said? They said, oh, shit, we're not making any money off this. We could have something else in this spot that's actually making us money, and have a nice day. Go find another partner that'll take you. In my opinion, they should go fully digital and figure it out that way, or build out infrastructure on their own platform, even though we've learned, if you remember when they put on a LIV Golf event and they blamed the local area and they missed like the first, 15, 20 minutes of the opening.
There was that, and then as Alan said, there was DeChambeau pulling a Shooter McGavin and bitching about the course conditions in Mexico City this past weekend.
And let me be clear about something else too. The players that are in LIV are not exactly the nicest, wholesome people. It's a lot of,
especially Bryson, sadly.
well, Bryson, Phil Mickelson, which we've heard many times. We heard Trey Wingo. We were talking about this yesterday. Trey Wingo had come out and said that basically Phil burned the bridge.
Oh, he burned it. He blew it up. He nuked it. He laser beamed it, like all these adjectives and verbs to say he ain't coming back, folks. Don't even think about asking him about it.
And by the way, and what was my answer to you when you asked me that yesterday?
Does he really need the money?
Now, it is on the record publicly that he had gambling debt and gambling issues, but do you really think he went through 200 or more? I think he's made like 400, 500 million in his career. I doubt he needs the money. I'm just going to come out on a limb, and I'll look this up just to confirm and I know these aren't 100% accurate because you can't prove someone's net worth fully.
Yeah, Nick, while you do that real quick, I think the last question for the opening block here. With the announcement that we've heard, though, is this, in your mind, a withdrawal or a full-fledged white flag surrender? And can the PIF still hold the cards, or have they just handed the PGA Tour total victory over the sport of golf once again?
It's a tough question because it depends what angle you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from a public interest fund perspective out of Saudi Arabia, what was their motive for creating this league?
World domination.
Well, figuratively and literally, but the dumb statement you keep hearing the LIV Golf officials say is that, oh, we were trying to create a fun, competitive atmosphere against the PGA Tour. Well, that sadly did not work out too well. From a PGA Tour perspective, I don't think they really cared because they never saw them as competition.
No, and that, Nick, I think is why I would say I would probably call this a bit of a white flag moment we surrender. Because what is one of my long-standing arguments that I've had for over a year on ETB? Whenever you launch a secondary league to compete with the big bad wolves of the NFL, the NBA, NHL, or what have you, what usually happens to that other league that tries to duke it out with the opposing league?
Oh, they get decapitated.
They get clobbered. They get knocked out for the 10 count, and here we are again once more.
I thought it was odd when this LIV Golf League was announced because I kept saying to myself, the PGA Tour is the PGA Tour, just like the NFL is the NFL, or the NBA is the NBA, or Major League Baseball is Major League Baseball. Now, I would say the one difference for Major League Baseball is they play different formations in different countries, so that's different. NBA has different, not together. They're trying NBA Europe again for the 10 millionth time. I doubt it's really going to work. Golf is already international on the PGA Tour. So I never understood the competition base for LIV Golf. And then they were bringing tournaments to the U.S.
Right.
So they already lost me there because I thought the whole point of LIV, maybe you sprinkle in 4 or 5 events in the U.S., but most of it was going to be outside the U.S.
Yeah, it's going to be like more of an international schedule than anything else.
But it actually became more of U.S. events than international events.
Yeah.
And that's what confused me because I'm like, you're not going to beat the PGA Tour. You're just not. And then, and this is a classic rookie mistake in business. You just keep throwing more and more money at something thinking it's going to help. And that puts you more in debt. And you know what? The Saudi Public Investment Fund probably said, enough of this shit. We lost $5 billion. $5 billion to anybody is a lot of money. I don't care who you are. You could be Elon Musk. You could be the Ellison guy who was helping the, what's it called? The NILs.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. $5 billion is a lot of money. Okay? And I think they finally just had to say, we have a threshold for how much we were willing to lose. Okay? And some businesses do that because they say, all right, we have a threshold. This is how much we're willing to lose to get the business up.
Yeah, that went to my point earlier. Like, did they finally hit like their max limit on the credit card to fund the tournament across the board? So, Nick, we go from all things with the front office of LIV and their operations to all things now involving the players like Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Brooks Koepka, who, again, as we know, signed massive multi-year guaranteed contracts. Nick, what happens, though, in your mind that a guaranteed money if the PIF does dissolve the league entity? Do players like Rahm have any legal recourse to claim the remaining hundreds of millions of dollars still left on their deals, in your opinion, or what do you think? Tough to say, I'd say.
Oh, man. What happens to the guaranteed money? I mean, if they're legal contracts, they have to pay out, whether they like it or not. Now, it's not that they technically folded. The public interest fund pulled their finance.
I think we need to kind of make it clear. Like LIV is not collapsing. What is collapsing, though, is their financial model is collapsing with the PIF pulling out the money,
which essentially is going to kill them at some point.
Which will kill them and basically handcuff them.
Because is someone really going to take a chance on this after the amount of money that was put into it? Now, could it be different because of the whole stigma of Saudi Arabia and the public interest fund? Like, say a U.S.-based company got behind it, and they got people to invest in it, and it became more U.S.-based. Could they fix it? They could.
I think.
But I think there's enough damage done to the brand. I don't know if anyone would want to take a chance on that. But if the PIF dissolves the league entity, do players have any legal recourse? Yeah, they do, because they signed contract.
They have that. I think they have that across the board.
Now, could the PGA Tour come back and say, you're being paid by them, we're not going to let you play? Sure, they could. Because
we already seen that already with Koepka, with all the crap he had to pay back for him leaving the tour.
No, but I'm saying maybe the PGA Tour says you're still being paid, even though the LIV Golf League is not around anymore. You have to wait until your deal is up, which, by the way, I don't think those guys would really care at that point, because if they're still getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars, do you think they give two shits what the penalty? They're not going to accept penalties if they're being paid money. They're not. That's like an athlete who gets cut from their large contract early, and basically at that point they could say, "Oh, I'll play for any team I want. I'm not desperate to play for a team because I'm being paid all this money by another team."
Right.
Now, you started to see some other players go back to the DP World Tour, which is attached to the PGA Tour.
Correct.
Now, I do think the PGA Tour is acting a little bit high and mighty when they really shouldn't be on some things.
Yeah.
Who gave them the right to say the only way we'll take you back is if you pay all these fines and charitable donation?
You do this, you do that.
I want to know who made that up, because, to be honest, the PGA Tour would benefit from these guys being back on it because they're big names.
Yeah. And, I mean, the whole thing with what they were talking about regarding that you need to pay back this, you got to pay that, you got to give a charitable donation to a PGA Tour charity was just very much weird, though. And I think they're also ineligible for prize money, I want to say, or something along those lines, too.
I'm looking up what the punishment... Here it is. Brooks Koepka is returning to the PGA Tour under the returning member program.
Yes.
Now, before I read
this, talked about, yeah.
But before I read this, there's reports that the PGA Tour is going to make it worse for guys to return.
Of course they are.
But I'm going to read this again. And if it gets any worse than this and a punishment, I would tell the guys from LIV to run now. Because, so according to this returning member program, he was facing severe financial penalties estimated between $50 million and $85 million. This includes a $5 million charity donation and forfeiture of 2026 FedEx Cup bonus money and equity grants. Now, let's be fair about one thing. He wasn't on the tour all year. So it's not like he would have made the points anyway.
Correct.
But equity grants, because apparently you get equity on the PGA Tour if you play on it for enough time. I didn't know that. But this is crazy. Between lost equity, bonus money, and the fine, we're talking about between $50 and $85 million in penalties here. Like, have you ever heard of such a thing?
I never have. Just makes no sense.
It says as part of the deal to rejoin the PGA Tour in early 2026, he will not receive equity grants for 5 years.
So all the way till 2031.
He cannot access FedEx Cup bonus money in 2026 and must earn his way into signature events.
So you practically have to play to win, like in a very different way.
But who died and made the PGA Tour the king all here?
Yeah, that's I think the only problem I think I have with the PGA Tour, Nick, is how they've kind of gone about their business with this whole entire ordeal. It makes no damn sense.
But here's the funny part, though, about Koepka returning. Koepka's fully exempt through 2028 based on his 2023 PGA Championship win.
So that still carries weight even 3 years later.
Well, because he won the major, I guess he got a 5-year. So then that doesn't make any sense. So you're fining him for coming back because he took a more competitive deal. This is another thing that I've brought up to you many times when it comes to playing in competitive leagues against one another. The PGA Tour should not be fining anybody if they went to LIV, because if LIV made the better deal for these guys to play, wouldn't you take more money if it was offered to you? So who the hell is the PGA Tour to say that we're fining you this amount of money because we didn't like the fact that you went to play for LIV?
Yeah, that's with any line of work, though, not just in the PGA Tour. That, I mean, if you get a better deal to go somewhere else, you're going to take it.
But my point is, I didn't know the PGA Tour could say, I don't like LIV. So when you come back to us,
who made the PGA Tour judge, jury, and executioner of this whole entire thing? I don't want to hear that. Oh, they're the only golf ticket in town. That makes no difference. They're not anybody. They're not special.
And that's what bothers me here, because I get it. Is the PGA Tour upset because they don't want to deal with like the Saudi Arabia stigma of the players coming back?
Yeah, the blood money, as we've long called it. Exactly.
I understand, but they have no legal precedent to say if they go take the competitor's money, that if you decide to come back, you're punished, you're fined, you lose your status, blah blah blah. What is that?
It makes no difference, and it's a very weird thing. It's almost like, I think it's one of those like ha ha ha, I told you so moments, if we can really call it that.
But are they really saying ha ha ha? Because those guys got hundreds of millions of dollars that they're still going to be paid regardless.
Yeah, I mean, they're just acting. I think they're acting arrogant and they're acting arrogant and probably in a way ignorant of the whole entire ordeal.
Also, what people forget, what the PGA Tour got a little ignorant on, the majors had control over, just the major events were allowed to allow the LIV Golf players in. It's like tennis. The tennis majors are run by the major federation of each major, not by the what's it called on the tennis tour, the federations itself.
WTA?
The WTA or the MTA. They only run the events, like the touring events, not the majors. Same thing for the PGA Tour. The PGA majors are run by their own federations. So you noticed when the majors were playing, the LIV Golf LIV Golf players were allowed to play in the majors because the PGA Tour doesn't control those. And they were pissed off. The PGA Tour is pissed off. Why? Because you don't have control over it? Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the big problem. The PGA Tour wants control of golf. They want a monopoly over golf. And ironically, this goes back to 2023 when the LIV Golf League filed a lawsuit against the PGA Tour for a monopoly.
Correct.
Now, I don't remember. I'm looking that up just because I don't remember what the full outcome of that lawsuit was. But that was a big deal. I think they had to settle, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they settled it out of court.
But they tried, if you remember, Trump tried to get involved, and they were trying to put
together some kind of like advisory board with like Tiger and Rory McIlroy is acting like liaisons for the whole thing.
They were looking for a seance, basically.
Yes.
Where like all right, we don't attack you, you don't attack us. Let's try to work together on this. And that never worked because the two sides just hated each other
Oh yeah,
personally.
and it was really ugly for quite a while, and I'm sure it still is.
So it's an antitrust lawsuit between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour was effectively settled in June 2023 through a shocking announcement to merge their commercial operations. Remember, they tried to do that, and the commissioner, who was it at the time? Monahan at the time, who was terrible. Like, that guy couldn't get his feet out of a paper bag trying to run the PGA Tour, and they were trying to form a new, yet to be finalized for profit entity called PGA Tour Enterprises. That failed miserably because the two sides could never sit in the same room with one another.
By the way, Nick, David Rumsey has a new article out. We got half an hour left, but David Rumsey has 7 burning questions about the LIV future. First big question he addresses is that will LIV, of course, finish off their season? David writes in part, after canceling their New Orleans stop in June, LIV has 7 events left on their schedule this season, starting next week in Virginia at the Trump National Golf Course in D.C. The schedule will run through August, which includes 3 more U.S.-based tournaments. The PIF did confirm that it will fund LIV for the remainder of this season, so the league should be able to host the rest of its events as planned. But the biggest threat right now would be that players deciding not to compete in order to get a jump start on the next step of their pro careers and maybe defect back to the PGA Tour. Furthermore, away from this, the PIF also owns English Premier League's EPL soccer club Newcastle United and several Saudi Pro League soccer clubs, although it's selling 70% of the Al Hilali club to another Saudi royal holding company. The PIF also has investments in Formula One racing, ATP and WTA tennis tournaments, and Ladies European Tour golf circuit as well. So it looks like, barring more cancellations next, Nick, they're going to finish off this year, though, and then probably go into hiding.
Well, and I'm seeing some video. Some former players are speaking out. I see it on some different shows. Brandel Chambly, who's is now a Golf Channel lead analyst, said on the Dan Patrick Show, these players are only coming back when LIV folds at the end of the year. They're only coming because they have no other choice. I don't know if that's fully accurate, though.
I mean, there's the European Tour, the DP Tour.
And also, they could just go out and do their own stuff. Go look at what Bryson is doing on YouTube. I mean, or was it Bryson or who was it that we were talking about with
DeChambeau's got the YouTube following.
And here's another rule I will never understand either. The PGA Tour is like a dinosaur. And the reason I say it is, do you remember when Barstool held that huge golf event where they got a lot of the influencers and everything? It was a huge event, millions of views. And I can't remember the woman influencer. I see her all the time on Twitter, the golfer or whatever her name is. But like, she was in it. A bunch of others were in it. But the PGA Tour ended up banning players because they participated in that Barstool golf event.
Yeah, I remember that happening.
Who the hell is the PGA Tour to control what you do and not do off the course?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically like running everybody's lives now, it seems like, which makes no damn sense.
What? So you're basically saying that these players should not have other opportunities off the golf course? Why do you care what they do?
Exactly. Nick, the other big question, of course, is will LIV exist next season? Or next year, I should say. LIV, which launched in 2022, has already announced 4 tour dates for the upcoming 2027 season in Saudi Arabia, Australia, South Africa, and in Hong Kong, plus announcing plans to return back to Mexico City. But hosting 3 tournaments without sufficient funding would not be possible. LIV on Thursday also created a new independent board of directors tasked with securing long-term financial partners for the league, with commitments that would seemingly need to be secured within the next several months in order to proceed with the upcoming 2027 schedule. Good luck with that.
This is a disaster. First of all,
why bother look ahead to next year when you can't even figure out what's going to happen this weekend?
First of all, without this significant funding, LIV is going to die after this year. No pun intended. But there's no way, unless they get... How are they going to fund these contracts? because that's LIV's MO, that they give contracts to players to come play on the LIV Golf League. So how are you funding those contracts? Unless you have deep, heavy pockets like the Public Interest Fund does, who has that type of money?
Yeah, nobody.
Unless you're some ridiculously gigunda billionaire like Elon Musk, like you can't afford any of that. There's no way that someone besides the Saudi Public Interest Fund would be able to afford this league and these contracts and whatever else they're trying to pull off. So I don't think it matters. Forget next year. How about getting through this year before worrying about
That's
next
why
year?
I said, why not worry about the upcoming tournament you're going to be having, and then worry about this year, then worry about next year when you can actually do so.
Right. And I don't understand. And it's weird. I'm reading some other stuff. It says the move comes as Saudi Arabia pivots toward domestic projects and more traditional global investments. So that goes back to what Alan told us 2 weeks ago, that they're more worried about using this to get relationships internationally. They don't care about golf. And I think what they're finally realizing is like they went away from the Fanatics, the Tom Brady Fanatics.
Yeah, the football event that got moved to BMO Stadium in downtown LA.
Or Zuffa Boxing, which I think is going to die. If they're already pulling funding from LIV because it's not making money, do we really think Zuffa Boxing is making any money right now currently? I mean, I can look that up to see if I don't know if those numbers are going to be public or not. But it says as of early 2026, Zuffa Boxing is positioned as a highly capitalized venture backed by Saudi funding.
Yeah.
I think most of it is backed by Saudi funding.
Gotta be.
The venture is reportedly funded by Turk Al-Sheikh, he's the big name over there, and Saudi Arabian capital, allowing for a high-risk spending, such as a $15 million guarantee for a single fight for Conor Benn, who was a random name they signed. But I don't see how this is going to work out. If they're pulling from LIV, they're going to get rid of, and they're getting rid of Tom Brady's game. I think Zuffa's next. They could pull from soccer because I think the Public Interest Fund is paying for
Ronaldo's contract.
Ronaldo's contract, which is absurd. The amount of money that he's probably making. I want to look that up really fast because I'm sure it's insane. He's making between $200 million and $245 million per year.
That's just bonkers.
I understand he's one of the greatest athletes of all time, but in what world or what place in the U.S. is giving him that money?
Nowhere. Not even what Messi's making with Inter Miami.
So I think what we've learned out of this scenario is that LIV Golf basically was gambling with their Public Interest Fund. But instead of going to a casino table and playing cards or putting the chips on red or black on the roulette table, they were gambling on live sports and athletes and big names. And they finally struck out and they said, we don't want to lose that type of money anymore. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that too. Again, it kind of just goes back to my longstanding argument, though, that essentially when you start a rival league to the big bad wolf, what usually happens, the house blows down, which is where I kind of think things stand at this time. Let me go back real quick and try and refine the story here, because we're also monitoring another story away from golf today as well here that might need a short video or maybe another full episode or another bonus hour later on. But with that, though, Nick, back to what David Rumsey wrote, though, for Front Office Sports, though. Where could new potential investors be? The for-profit PGA Tour Enterprises entity was created back in 2024 after an initial $1.5 billion investment from the group called Strategic Sports Group, or SSG, a consortium of U.S.-based pro sports team owners, including the Fenway Sports Group, Arthur Blank, Steve Cohen, among others. Others that showed interest in investing into the PGA Tour includes Arcos Partners, Endeavor, and a group led by billionaire Henry Kravis. the founder of the private equity firm at KKR at this rate. Endeavor also considered an investment in LIV in the league's early years. Endeavor's operations have since folded into the areas of the TKO Group, whose president Mark Shapiro previously told FOS that they are not interested in investing in LIV. Damn.
I don't think anyone's going to be interested in LIV unless they want it as a tax write-off. That's the only way
I think it could be.
But I think the Public Interest Fund ran LIV Golf into the ground. And not because of golf itself. They just kept throwing money. And they, you know what? They were just like, oh, okay, we'll just keep fixing it. And they just kept throwing like a endless cash register. Like they just kept going in and say, all right, I'm just going to keep pulling money out of it and throwing it at the LIV Golf League. That's what. That's what it felt like. It was just like an endless cash machine, and eventually, the cash machine is going to run out because there has to be a limitation at some point that says, "All right, I understand we're in this for the long haul, but $5 billion is a lot of money to lose," and I don't think there's recovery from this. I just don't. Can you think of anybody that would want this league?
Absolutely not. I think it goes back to what we've been long saying, though, Nick, throughout the course of our show here. Why would anybody want to touch this entity with a 10-foot pole because of what LIV has made their name known for? It's the Saudi Arabia blood money. 9/11 comes to mind, for example. The ongoing war in Iran comes to mind. You know, all the wars that have been fought over there for the last several years, if not last numerous decades. That I don't see anybody who would want to touch, who would want to invest in this entity just to keep a fledgling, soon-to-be folding golf operation afloat when you've already got the PGA Tour.
Right, and that's the problem. Like, the PGA Tour was always going to win in this battle. Now, if you remember, I asked a question to Alan, is it similar? Now, it's not completely similar, but when we talked about the WNBA and
Unrivaled.
Now, the only difference is that those seasons were not at the same time.
Where golf is in the same time frame.
Right. But if you remember the whole thing with Kathy, it's not competition, blah, 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 whatever. But they ran into the same issue in year 2.
Correct. Where
they couldn't keep the hype after the first time around in their first season. And I think, what is this, season 1 or season 2 for LIV? This is season 2, right? So
I think it's either 2 or 3.
Well, the interest is dropping off. More people would rather watch the PGA Tour than LIV Golf. And it's harder to find it on TV. Think about it. PGA Tour's on NBC or CBS. You could find it every weekend. They're going to air all the majors. They're going to do all these things to make sure, even though CBS completely botched the final hole of which
Masters.
Major was it? The Masters.
The Masters.
Where you didn't even see the ball go in the hole. But like, I don't know, man. Like, LIV Golf is dead. Like, dead. And there's nobody with big enough pockets to really see what's going to happen. I see you have a thing on here on Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour leadership.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I guess, so Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour leadership, along with the Strategic Sports Group, now find themselves in a position of absolute leverage. We discussed the potential reunification and the cost of entry for returning rebels. Jay Monahan has been under fire for 5 years, or for years, excuse me. Does this news make him the ultimate survivor of the golf wars? No.
No, not at all. No way, no how. Don't even go there.
Jay Monahan didn't do anything.
He didn't do jack squat. I was going to say, Nick, that this in a way reminds me of the whole WNBA lockout story. I think I recall saying, Nick, whenever the WNBA got their shit together, Kathy Engelbert is not a hero. Jay Monahan is not a hero in this story either whatsoever, because
not the slightest.
This is more of a self-inflicted internal issue with the PIF and LIV more than somebody throwing a life raft to somebody else like Monahan claims to be doing.
And Jay Monahan, throughout this whole issue between LIV and the PGA Tour, can say, "Oh well, the players are not welcome back. They're going to lose their PGA Tour card if they go over to LIV." I mean, did you see the WNBA say, "Screw you for going to Unrivaled? We're not letting you back in the league"?
Or signing with Project B.
Like, can you imagine if the WNBA said, "Oh, you went to Unrivaled, bye. You're not welcome here anymore"? The WNBA would crumble.
Exactly.
Now, I think the PGA is a little bit different. They could survive because they still have enough big names on the PGA Tour. But I'm just saying, imagine if any other league did that. The NBA, if they somehow created a European league separate from the NBA, and the players got their money and they went over and they said, and the NBA said, "Screw you, don't come back here." The NBA would crumble too if all the big names left to Europe.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what makes Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour. I don't know if he's the current commissioner anymore.
At least at the time, though, when this whole thing happened, he was.
Well, let's look it up. Oh, no, he still is. He's scheduled to step down at the end of 2026.
What?
Wow, isn't that ironic that the LIV Golf
Tour... I was going to say, how ironic is that right there?
Oh, that's right. They announced Brian Rolap as the CEO. I think he was, what was he, NASCAR or something, I think?
I think so. That name rings a bell, though.
But how ironic that the LIV Golf League crumbled and he's finishing up his tenure this year. Like, figure that one out.
That is pretty damn poetic. Like, wow.
Now, talking about the path back. What is the path back for the LIV players? Will Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy insist on significant financial penalties or suspensions before Rahm or Mickelson can tee it up at the TPC Sawgrass again? First of all, can we just throw Phil in the river? Because we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, he's done.
Rahm, I could see him come back.
I think Rahm will come back. I think everybody else would come back, with the exception of Phil.
Well, you never know. Phil could beg to come back behind the scenes, even though I doubt he would do that because he's going to strong arm his reputation more than anything.
And then I don't know if anybody even needs DeChambeau anymore.
Yeah, but he's made enough money from LIV. He's got a huge YouTube channel. To him, it probably doesn't matter, to be quite honest. I don't think the PGA Tour should have rules against people doing YouTube and doing like influencer tournaments. I don't know why that matters so much to the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Wouldn't you be better off working with these guys?
I mean, you should be.
Because then,
come on now.
Because then maybe they would promote the PGA Tour on these events rather than saying, "Screw you, PGA Tour. I'm going to make more money in these events than I'm going to make from winning a single tour event."
Precisely.
First of all, Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy should not be the arbiter. That's just my opinion.
No, absolutely not.
Because Rory basically has come out publicly against LIV many times and said, "I want nothing to do." They offered him more money than any other LIV player. LIV offered him and Tiger more money than I've ever seen ever offered on a contract.
I think we talked about maybe like close to $800 million for Tiger Woods that he turned down.
I'm going to look that up really fast. But it was up there. Okay, here it is. Tiger Woods rejected an offer between $700 and $800 million.
Jeez Louise.
Now, even to this day, Tiger doesn't need the money. I'm just going to say that.
Even with another rollover crash and him enjoying Switzerland for rehab, he does not need the money.
The guy was the first billionaire golfer ever. But before he left Nike and went off to his own brand, and what was that commercial all the time? It was Tiger, Roger Federer, Derek Jeter. Didn't they used to do that commercial for what was it, the shaving commercial or the Nike commercial? I don't remember which.
Maybe a Nike commercial.
But they were like the first of their kind to really be huge brands like that. Tiger never needed the money. First of all, Tiger would have been labeled as a huge sellout if he took that money. So there was no way.
You sold out.
Even if he wanted to take the money, he couldn't. Can you imagine if America's biggest golfer went from the PGA Tour to LIV? What would have happened? The headlines that would have caused?
Yikes.
But I will tell you right now, Tiger and Rory should not be the sole arbiters on what punishments are for these guys. First of all, there should be no punishments for these guys coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I wrong for thinking that sounds crazy and ridiculous?
No, I think it's ludicrous. I mean, in a small way, I get why they're getting punished because they were in violation of the tour card of the code of ethics. But even then, when they come back, there's no reason to even go down that rabbit hole, for God's sakes.
But what code of conduct are they violating?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, if you go and take a different job elsewhere, like we said, and then maybe that doesn't work out, and then you come back, why punish them for that? That just makes no sense.
Now, I guess the PGA Tour could technically say, "Oh, we don't have to take you back." I guess. They don't have to give you a tour card. They don't have to, but you might have lawsuits on your hand if you don't.
Agreed.
I don't know. The PGA Tour is playing with fire in a lot of ways.
They really are. And I think it might only, Nick, get worse before it gets better with this entire situation as well.
And just kind of looking through the rest of the info, does the Strategic Sports Group now move to acquire the team intellectual property of LIV? No. I'd stay far away from. What are you gaining by gaining the assets of LIV? Nothing. It's a brand. That's it.
Yeah, it's a brand name, and that's about it.
How does the peace agreement of 2023 look now? Is that the whole? You're talking about the relationship between the two sides?
Yeah.
Well, it never happened.
It never happened because it never was peaceful. It was very much, a mudslinging civil war going on inside of golf, basically, if you ask me.
LIV was never going to work. Can we just be real about that?
I mean, to my longstanding point, if you try to prop up another league in a sport, they're not going to survive.
But shame on the PGA Tour, too, for saying, oh, I went to go take more money because I was being offered more money. And now essentially what you're doing is taking that money away from them to come back.
Uh-huh.
But to not allow... Here's where I agree on some aspects. You don't want to give them the bonus points for the FedEx points thing. That's fine because they were not there the entire season. I have no problem with that. You want to penalize them for the equity because they weren't there? Fine. Because equity for the PGA Tour is a right of the PGA Tour. It's not a given. It's not something you get just for the sake of being there.
Yeah.
But a $5 million charity donation? Who are you to say that that's an arbiter punishment? Or that you have to earn your way up to the events? Who are you to say what is considered earnable?
Yeah, I mean, all these stipulations and penalties, Nick, are not going to benefit anybody, especially guys who come back to the tour, because then it's almost like you, in a way, alienate part of the fan base when their favorite golfer has to do all this crap just to get back to playing on PGA events.
My advice to some of these golfers who have a big enough following, go on a YouTube channel, go be part of a golf network, something that's digital, and screw the PGA Tour.
At the rate that we're going, I would be right there with you.
Because, look, the standard ways of doing things anymore is just not the norm anymore. You don't need TV, terrestrial TV, or cable or whatever to watch your favorite events anymore. Now you just need your phone or a tablet or a device that you can carry on you. I mean, heck, we're seeing more now for digital events on Amazon and Netflix and Peacock and all these things. I don't know if you saw the news, and the only reason I'm bringing this up because that's to do with it. Did you see the deal that Duke just signed with Amazon?
Yeah.
And now I think they signed a 3-year deal for neutral site games, which
Yes.
I'm sure we'll talk about next week. But that's what I'm talking about. You think Duke gives two shits what the NCAA thinks? No.
Oh, hell no.
Now, I'm sure they still had to get that approved.
Cleared by the NCAA, yes.
But you really think they could give two shits what this does for everybody else? No.
Yeah, of course not.
Now, I didn't read enough into it yet. We'll definitely read more into it when it comes up next week when we talk about it. But it has to do with neutral site games. So is it going to be the most major games they play? Probably not.
No, I'm sure it'll be like a lot of those like tournaments that they play to kick off the basketball season, for example, if it's neutral site.
The big issue will be, and actually I'm glad I brought up the NCAA and we'll finish off. Imagine if March Madness was on a digital property.
Oh,
only.
No.
Well, this is the Super Bowl argument all over again, which I still stand on that the Super Bowl will never just be on a digital entity.
I do too.
That would be committing suicide to their advertising numbers and sponsor numbers if they went.
And I think
digital.
the other media partners they have too would probably feel like they're being alienated if that happens.
So I don't think that'll happen. But March Madness, golf is actually in my opinion, the most perfect testable asset when it comes to
Streaming.
digital properties. Because if I'm not mistaken, there is some golf on Prime Video already.
I think so. I mean, and even NASCAR, I think, is having the Anduril 250 here in San Diego on Prime Video Father's Day weekend.
I just want to look up golf on Prime Video. And what's his name? The golf legend is on doing some coverage for them.
McFaldo?
I'm looking it up. But Prime Video offers extensive live golf coverage. And they did the Masters. They had Masters coverage.
Yes.
Let's see. And they have documentaries. That's another big thing now with digital currency with these leagues. They want to be able to put out like coverage that's going on in the league, like live coverage following people.
Right.
Amazon and Netflix provides that way better than, say, a CBS or an NBC and all those. But YouTube has become a huge thing for golf. People don't realize that. Like,
Right.
Now, I'm only looking this up just for context's sake. But let's look up Bryson's YouTube channel just for okay. He's got 2.6 million followers on YouTube.
Jiminy Christmas.
So, to be honest, does he care if he's back on the PGA Tour at this point? No.
Not at all.
It's an odd scenario because the PGA Tour is acting like a monopoly, and that's what LIV was suing for.
Correct.
Because everyone said, "Oh, well, you can't go play golf anywhere else unless you come to the PGA Tour."
Ooh.
Is that really the case anymore, though? No. Barstool's going to be doing this event again. Now, the rumors are that LeBron, that's a rumor, LeBron and Caitlin Clark are going to come be part of the next Barstool golf event. I'll believe that.
I can see Caitlin, though, because I think Caitlin does golf in her free time away from playing hoops.
Well, they're friendly, by the way. Also, I don't think LeBron would ever show up to that event. But if they got LeBron and Caitlin Clark, you're telling me that wouldn't be bigger than watching a not a major, but like say a normal golf event on Saturday and Sunday. Which one would you be watching? Would you be watching the Barstool event with Caitlin Clark and LeBron James, or are you going to go watch a local-ish event on Saturday or Sunday?
I'm watching that one. I'm watching the one with Caitlin and LeBron.
So you got to take that into account when it comes to these situations that the PGA Tour is acting like they're the king and they're never going to get holes poked in them anymore.
Yeah, and that's not the right way to go about it either.
I'm just trying to think. So I guess if you had to put one or two more statements just to conclude this, Where do you think it's dead? I think it's dead.
I think it's dead. I don't see how you recover from this when you lose that much money in such a short span of time.
Yeah, I think it's dead. Also, I'll tell you a big mistake I think LIV made having Greg Norman as the CEO.
Oh, big time.
Like, don't get me wrong. Greg Norman is a Hall of Fame golfer. No one's questioning that.
Yeah.
But his attitude as the CEO of LIV.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Now, I don't know if that. First of all, I'm surprised Greg Norman would take that job on, knowing the stigma that LIV Golf already had.
Right. Same. But yet he did it.
But in the long run, the players who got the contracts, okay? So who are we talking about? Bryson, Jon Rahm, who else got the
Johnson?
Dustin Johnson. I mean, this will be the last.
Patrick Reed?
Yeah, let's see. LIV Golf contracts. And by the way, thank you to the almost 140 people who are in here watching today. We talk about LIV Golf. I'm going to try to find us a golf guest to get more into it next week also, so we can really dig in. But, okay, Jon Rahm was somewhere between 300 million and 600 million, whatever his deal. Phil Mickelson over 200 million. Koepka between 100 and 130. Dustin Johnson 125. Think about all that money. This is what I was talking about. I'll try to do the math. Let's see, 300, 500, 630. We're talking about almost 800 million in those four guys alone.
Okay, LA Dodgers.
So, and actually, here's a Forbes story that was published today. Over $3 billion in money was given from the public interest fund to players who got contracts. What? Is that insane?
$3 billion.
And it says LIV has paid out nearly $1.36 billion in prize money and championship bonuses after netting out the 60% share of team prize money. Remember, there was team events too.
Yes. Ooh, excuse me.
By the end of the season, if it played out as originally scheduled, the total prize money will hit $1.59 billion, and the total doled out will exceed $3.2 billion. You realize that that's insane, right?
That's like LA Dodgers spending right there.
But yeah, so it says here $300 million for Jon Rahm, $200 million for Phil, $100 million for Brooks Koepka. It also immediately started offering the largest tournament purses in golf history, setting a standard with $25 million purses per event. Think about that number. What? You'd be lucky if regular PGA Tour events hit a couple million, right?
Yeah.
And then it says there was a $50 million event in the first year.
Sounds about right.
And it grew to $30 million in 2026. The league and then it says they announced that they pulled their funding, but they're LIV Golf is treating money like it's free agency, almost.
It's like the LA Dodgers.
But I'm just saying generally, they're like, oh, who can we snag away from the PGA Tour and we'll sign them to a big free agency deal?
Yep.
And it bit them in the ass.
It finally did.
Because money doesn't solve all problems. I know that's cliche.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
It just makes... Here's the deal. It could go one of two ways. When you have funding or you have money, it makes it easier to run a business, right? Logically.
Of course. Logically, yes.
But if you don't know how to spend the money properly, what happens?
It tanks.
Shit happens, as they say. And your business tanks and you lose $5 billion like they did. So
I lost $5 billion.
I just find it funny, though, that they have all these contracts. Koepka and Reed have returned to the PGA Tour, facing big penalties.
Yeah.
The other thing. Reed's situation was a little different because he resigned his PGA Tour membership, which I didn't know.
Oh.
Before competing for LIV, meaning he didn't violate his PGA Tour contract. and has been allowed to try to rejoin the tour after serving a suspension. So, okay, this is going to sound ridiculous what I'm about to say. Why didn't the guys resign their PGA Tour contracts before leaving for LIV?
That's all they had to do.
Because then technically you're not under PGA Tour contract, technically, or code of conduct anymore. So basically they're saying Reed was the only smart person in this whole thing. But forfeiting player equity until 2030, I could care less. That's a PGA. When you go to any business and you work your way up, equity is not a privilege. Is a privilege, as they say, right? It's not a. What's that dumb saying? It's not a privilege. It's a privilege, not a.
It's a privilege, not a right.
Thank you. So, the PGA Tour can say it's not your right to ownership, and I would be okay with that, in a sense. But to fine them $5 million, I can't get over that number at all.
Brutal.
But that's pretty much it. Thank you to the 140 plus people who came in and watched us. We're probably going to end up talking about this a little bit more next week because there's going to be more news that comes out on this. I'm sure we're going to hear what happens to LIV Golf officially by next week's show.
I would think so. I think it feels like the inevitable is coming for LIV Golf.
Like I said, unless Elon Musk is walking through the door and willing to put the money down needed to complete the transaction, as they say in business,
the answer is no.
This is interesting. I didn't see this quote. So, according to Brian Rolap, who's going to be taking over for Monahan,
yes,
quote, there were rules and they were broken. With rules comes accountability. We're interested in having the best players who can help our tour. Not every player can do that. I don't know. I don't know what to read into that. So basically, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Oh, they broke the rules, but we want the best players on tour. Whatever. But that'll do it for the show. Make sure you follow Press Row on social media at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms except TikTok right now because they're a whining hissy fit. Also follow the ETB network. Well, I just said it at ETB network, the Empty Dimension network at ETB network on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB network. We broke 1,100 subscribers. Woohoo! Let's keep going. Let's grow those watch hours. We gained a significant amount of watch hours yesterday when I checked. Woo! All right, Ric Flair. But yeah, youtube.com/ETB network. Go over, subscribe. Quickly, if you see the QR code in the top left, that is for the GoFundMe project that Callan is working on for roller hockey coverage this summer in June, right? Or is it July?
July.
Mid-July. This July 7th to July 19th. You'll be going back and forth, essentially doing coverage of the Irvine Inline.
That is correct, and we've kind of stalled for a bit, but we just put out a TikTok post and a IG story post. 25% of the way still there. So if you want to help out, again, scan that QR code in the top left corner, or go into my IG account at Calamax Sports, and the link is now in my bio where you can go and help support the cause.
Do we have any update? The number go up at all?
We're still at 395.
Hey, that's pretty good considering you just put it out, too.
Yeah, about a week, almost about a week. We launched it late Saturday night on the 25th, and we're about 5 days later, and I've already had 9 people contribute to the cause.
So if you go and watch our stuff later, you will see the QR code up there. So in case you didn't see the show and you're watching back, go and scan the QR code and help the GoFundMe, because that's going to be done in multiple places. You're going to be doing some small market edition episodes on that. Maybe we'll do some short videos, which we'll put out across our social media channels.
Yeah, I hope to be able to have another interview with our good friend Blake Bolden, who will be having a team playing in the tournament, I believe, in the Women's Pro Division once again, like last season.
I'd love to have her back on. She would. I'd like to be there for it next time, because that looked like a fun time, at least for that interview. Quickly, just stuff that's coming up. What do we have? Unnecessary wagers tomorrow, actually, which we have to schedule after the show is over.
Yes.
Anything else Friday?
No, I think that's it.
Well, usually it would be Bando's breakdowns, but that aired today. Go back and check the interview he did with Ben Stevens from VSiN. That's up live on our YouTube channel as well, so go check that out. Just trying to think if there's anything else coming up this weekend. Between the ropes with Christy Wilson, which we'll get into some of that interest fund stuff, which could be affecting. Actually, that could affect the WWE too, by the way, right?
Absolutely.
Because don't they go to Saudi Arabia like twice a year or something? So don't miss that. Lounge, obviously, on Sunday. A more calmer lounge, I'm hoping. So check that out, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Sundays. And then we're getting close because in May, we launched 2 new shows as well. So don't miss those. You want to quickly shout the shout?
Yeah, Tom Albano's got Fight IQ starting May 11th, and You Go Inside My Cranium starting on May 12th.
Never thought I'd hear you say that sentence, ever. Never.
for a sports version or for a sports talk show, not for whatever you might be thinking, folks. Get your head out of the gutter.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back next Wednesday. What date was that? Is that the 6th, right?
Where are we at here? Yes, that is correct.
May 6th, 2 p.m. Eastern, normal time. 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. For more shenanigans on Press Row. But for Callan McClure, I'm Nick Morganson. That'll do it for this special edition of Press Row. LIV Golf officially collapses into the abyss, at least financially.
Yes.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. We will see you on May 6th.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for being here.